Butterfly 3000, album number 18, which is
Uh-huh.
insane. Do you still remember every record?
I don't think I could remember the track listing of every record, but I think if you put it on, I would know it very intimately and
Mm.
remember where I recorded it, where I was, what I was thinking about, maybe have an anecdote. I feel like I could do that for every single song. It's weird. Like, so, excuse me, sometimes when we're rehearsing for a tour and we dig up an old song we haven't played for a while, I just have the most incredible visceral memories attached to some of our back or all of our back catalog songs. It's very cool. It's like very grateful for that kind of connection. It feels like a home movie or something.
I can imagine. So which record aside from Butterfly 3000 is in not in the back of your mind, but like really present in your memory?
Yeah, I think they sort of just soundtrack different times of my life. And, like I've spent a lot of time recording music, like probably more time doing that than any other single thing like I've ever done in my life, So, and I've recorded in a lot of different places and spaces and rooms and bedrooms and studios and garages and stuff. And hard to single out like individual kind of places, but yeah, it is incredible how those memories, like I feel like if I ever have some kind of like degenerative mental illness, like
Yeah.
I'll be able to kind of I'll come back when they play my
Mm.
own music.
Yeah.
Like you know.
Yeah. Hey, but I mean, it's. Yeah, I mean, you can say that you guys are on a roll. 3 records in almost 1 year. Key J, LW, and now Butterfly 3000. What is going on?
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know. We just like to make music.
Mhm.
I like to make music. I don't have another job, you know what I mean? Like I just make music. It's
Mhm.
it's it's just what I do. I love touring and stuff as well, but what I really love the most is kind of creating something fresh and something new and exploring some element or aspect of music that I haven't done before, or trying to kind of go to some new place or create some kind of album which has a bit of a landscape and a feel and a texture and things, and that kind of escapism that sort of comes with all of that. It's my favorite thing to do. So I think naturally have been fairly to drawn to just doing that as much as I can.
Yeah.
Um those three, KG, LW, and Butterfly 3000, were all made in kind of COVID lockdown type times. So they all, I think I will look back on these records and think of them sort of in a bit of a set. Like, they were a lot of overlap with the songs. Some songs from Butterfly predate a lot of songs from KG and LW. There's just a lot of
Yeah.
overlap with all of those. And they're all kind of just made in this weird world that we live in where we don't tour anymore, and we can't make music in our traditional way. So we just made different records,
Yeah.
and that's nice. I'm kind of like proud of that aspect of these three.
I can imagine. I mean, I read somewhere that Dreams was kind of like a little bit of a foundation for Butterfly 3000. You made that song in like back
Uh-huh.
in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, that song was recorded for Chunky Shrapnel. Well, for the kind of score, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, the music for it.
Mm-hmm.
My memory is that it was originally the piece of music was originally written for, if anyone knows, the piece of music that ended up going there is called Anamnesis, and it's like this part of the film that just shot on Super 8 and it goes into like split screen.
Yeah.
And yeah, Dreams was written for that sequence, but it just didn't have the right tone. But we just knew that it was something.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, it was instrumental and it was different. But the synth part on Dreams that ends up on Butterfly 3000
Yeah.
is literally recorded there. Like it's literally the exact piece. And so we just kind of fleshed it out and did a lot of drums and other recordings and stuff. And at this point, we didn't really know we were making an album. I guess we just kind of made it as a standalone song, and we just opened to it being what it ended up being. But it sort of did feel like, oh, this is kind of a special, different feel that we haven't explored much. So let's kind of like make a whole record that feels like this. And
wow.
over a kind of long period of time, that the record just kind of evolved and came together like that.
So when you discover a sound that you guys haven't done before, does that scare you or does that excite you?
No, it's the most exciting thing. It's the most exciting thing. And because it feels like, okay, this one song just turned into 10, which is kind of like what, Dreams felt like. It was having puppies, and, all the other songs just like needed to grow up or something, It's a really nice feeling. And sometimes that process can be quite quick. And, once you kind of get there, it's like, okay, everything comes together quite quickly. And sometimes that process can take a really, really long time, like years. Sometimes that process can take years. So I think there are a lot of songs that we just keep in the back pocket. It's like, no, this is part of a broader project.
Right.
This one's something that we sit on until it has time to blossom. And
yeah.
I
love the metaphor you use for albums. I think you've once said something about like albums are like little families. Now you just mentioned puppies.
Puppies, yeah.
Yeah. It's obvious that you guys, when you look at the way that music is made now, don't look at it in like a traditional way. I mean, 3 albums in 1 year, like everybody would tell you like that is not a good idea. Are you ever afraid of this road that you guys are taking with the band?
I mean, we've never really done anything too conventional. So it sort of has just been what we've done. In saying that, like, we're not always trying to make a point or some like statement. We generally just like following the creative muse, just doing what feels right at the time. Touring, you have to plan quite far in advance, sometimes 18 months, like sometimes as far as 2 years. I hate that. Like, making a record, you have to plan a fair way in advance. Sometimes it can take 6 months to get vinyl pressed, like all the other stuff. If you need to do the traditional making music videos and blah, 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 it takes a long time. But I just like to do what feels right at the time. And so I think a lot of our career and stuff has been based on just following your intuition and path as it comes and not overthinking things too much, right. Which has led us to doing a lot of like bizarre things, like releasing 5 records in a year or whatever. But I mean, we didn't intend specifically for KG, LW and Butterfly 3000 to come out so quickly. They just were made like in a fairly, they're actually, all 3 of those records had a longer gestation period. I'm talking about puppies again. The gestation period, they were like made, over a longer period of time, but they were finished quickly. They were finished quite close together. So we put them out quite close together.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it's just as simple as that.
I think it's so cool for other bands to see you guys doing it that way, because I can't imagine that when you first start out that you feel some kind of pressure that there is like a way that you're supposed to do it. And then to see a band like King Gizzard and see that it's actually working for you guys. I think that's amazing.
It's taken like a long time for me to be able to do all these things and to like truly not worry about like what anyone says. And also just, it took us, like, we didn't tour outside of Australia until we were on our like 5th or 6th record or something. So it's just like one foot in front of another and just, slowly kind of doing one thing at a time. And
so when did
seeing how we go from there.
So when did that change, that you felt like, you know what, I'm just gonna let it go? I
think it's very gradual. I'm not sure if I've had like a moment like that. I mean, and I haven't, it's not like I'm someone who worries what other people think too much. But I mean, more just like in our sort of esoteric way of working, I guess, I don't really care if someone thinks like you shouldn't release a record without doing any singles. Like it's fine. Just check it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Then at the
Yeah.
same time, I think he once said, just trust us. You might not understand where this is going right now, but trust me, it will all make sense in the long run. Can you tell me more about that plan?
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is maybe don't analyze King Gizzard in a kind of like, oh, this song, or even like maybe this record. Like I would like, and people can analyze this however they want, like whatever. But I think the best way to kind of like think about our band is to kind of like take the whole package. And, you know, if you want to try and dive into the 18 records that we've made, like Butterfly 3000 makes, in my mind, more sense after you've listened to Fishing for Fishies, Sylvester the Rat's Nest, KG and LW. And I think that's what has always been the funnest thing to me, is just kind of thinking about the zoom out and stuff. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember saying that, but it sounds like something else. It sounds like something I'd say.
Hey, but I mean, you already mentioned it a little bit. The previous two albums, or the previous albums, I feel like are a bit darker when it comes to the sound and the lyrics. With Butterfly 3000, it sounds more uplifting, which feels a little bit ironic when you think about the times that it was made in.
Yeah, it's definitely an escapism thing. And yeah, this is something that has come up in like almost every interview I've done, because everyone's just like, it's so joyful, like it's so happy, and like you made it in the pandemic, what? And it's like, I mean, my take is like, of course that's what you make, you know, of course that's what you do. And you know, we've written a lot of songs about the world and how fucked it is, or climate change, or whatever, like how terrible our species can be sometimes, things like that. And in a time when everybody in the entire world is like glued to their phone, constantly looking at the news and like updates on the pandemic, it's just like, I don't want to ram it down people's throats anymore. You know, like it's time to just escape into butterfly land. Like I want to wake up in my dreams. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just what felt right in that moment.
So, was this a hard record to make?
It was a hard record to make, actually, in some ways. Yeah, it was a record where we were quite selective with the tracks. It wasn't, so sometimes we make records where it's like, just make so many ideas and so many like little ideas and demos and things, and then you kind of choose the best ones and you figure out how they all fit together, and it's like, you know, it comes together like that. Whereas this one was like very considered, I think, for a Gizzard record. And I think it's because after the first couple of songs came together, like Dreams, You Love, Black Hot Soup, they were the first kind of three, and Shanghai as well. They were the first ones that came together, and they maybe came together in a free way, at least in a rudimentary kind of phase. A record started to have a feel and a vibe, and it became important that every other song that we wrote lived in that world. And so it meant, in some ways, we were restricted to like a certain feel or a certain sound, but it's because the record is meant to have like a landscape. Like you go into like this world and it's different. It's like some weird version of the future or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a hard record to make, and it did feel harder to write songs than for other records. And maybe it's just because, yeah, like you mentioned before, we've made a lot of kind of like darker or moodier song or records, leaning on, you know, scary sounds, dark textures and things. And this one, yeah, this one did feel like we didn't want to do that at all. And, you know, like that was just a hard spell to break, I think.
Yeah. I think, I don't remember who it is, but there was an artist who said people really underestimate how hard it is to make happy songs because you have to stay in the happy space when you're making a song. And then he mentioned Pharrell.
Yeah.
He's like, sometimes I just think about Pharrell making happy. Like that must have been torturous to just be happy during that recording process.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I haven't heard that quote, but I can totally relate to that. I think, it's funny, like when I kind of look back on our discography and maybe I think about some of the musical tones, but also lyrical tones throughout different periods of records, I think they probably do relate a lot more to me or us personally than I realized at the time.
Oh.
You know, like you're talking about these broader themes of like, well, this is kind of like an anxious period, or this is kind of like, there's a lot of like pain in these records, you know, or like this one feels happy. And like, I actually was in the writing process of this record, I actually was like in an incredibly excited and happy phase. Yeah, I had a daughter 7 months ago, which was like kind of in the lead up to this record and just feeling very excited about that. About to have a baby when we we're kind of writing this. I think it was just like, it was a bizarrely nice time to be in a pandemic. Just to get nuclear is the word.
Yeah, just to be together. Just
yeah,
it's isolated a little bit, like you're in a cocoon a little bit. Yeah,
it's not such a bad time to be isolated, actually.
Yeah,
bad in some ways actually as well, but you know, in a lot of ways lovely. And I think a lot of the joy from that record emanates from kind of that feeling in that time. So
yeah,
you know, it's real.
How did you?
Maybe Pharrell was really happy when he wrote Happy.
How did you feel at the end of recording Butterfly 3000?
I felt really happy about this song. I remember thinking that I will like look back on this time really fondly. And the making of this record really fondly, even though it was, like I said, it was challenging. It was creatively challenging. It wasn't as fun. Like, I wouldn't use that word because it wasn't like your friends together in a room making music together. It was kind of like lonely sometimes, and stuff. A lot of just late night laptop sessions, that sort of thing. But yeah, I think the broader like headspace and everything that I was in was just really lovely. And yeah, just feeling really proud of this record, which is a nice feeling. And sometimes I don't feel like that. Sometimes I'm like, this is weird. Like, I need to sit with this a little bit longer. I think, I don't know, what is this? I don't know. But this one, I'm like, no, I think this is what it's supposed to be this time.
Which song on the record surprises you that when you listen to it, you're like, wow, I can't believe we made that?
So there are a handful of songs across our discography that I would say are like that, but not many. And I think it's because when I think about each song, I think about like all of the dead ends we went down. It was like, we tried this section and it didn't work, and we cut that out, and we did this, and we recorded all these parts and we deleted it. And like, you know, I changed these lyrics so many times, and it's like every song just feels like a lot of work, and a lot of changes and a lot of edits and stuff. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like, a couple of the songs did come together more easily than others. The song Butterfly 3000, the last kind of track, actually was one of those things. So maybe a little bit in that way, that song, it was originally actually just an outro, this instrumental outro, and to Your Love. And I wanted to write some words to it that wrapped up like what lyrically it was kind of talking about on that song.
Mm.
And I sort of like kind of came up with this. It's just like a monologue, really. It's kind of like one giant verse, and it's it just kind of, I know people who write songs say this sometimes, and this doesn't actually happen to me all that often, but this actually just came out of nowhere, and I just went like, holy shit, I think that's done. Like, I think that's it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and this song, which wasn't really a song, it was an outro to an existing song, just took on its own personality. And that's really nice when that happens.
Yeah.
And then, you know, maybe that one, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That feeling, that happens every so often, that that you don't have to make any effort, that it just comes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was the one that, and it was the last song that came together as well. It's the last song on the album, last song that was finished. It's like, I have said this in interviews a couple of times as well. The ending of that record was actually Black Hot Soup originally, but I was never happy with it because it ends on the wrong tone. Like, Black Hot Soup's kind of about the universe, and it ends on this grand kind of sort of big ending. But I just felt like that wasn't the right personality for Butterfly 3000. It had to end a little bit more inward, and reflective. So the last song was kind of put together for that.
If the record could talk, what would it say?
Oh, a lot of this record is kind of about awakening or something, or like maybe sort of in a non-religious spiritual kind of way, just change and metamorphosis and awakening or reawakening. It like probably would just say, nice to meet you, good morning, or something. I've just been born.
I like that.
Yeah.